Good evening and a warm welcome to Granada Reports. Coming up tonight, cleaning up the streets, a call for legalised brothels after the murder of Danielle Moorcroft. The bloom at the centre of Lancashire's new War of the Roses. The waiting's almost over as Bex admits he's out to settle an old score. And be prepared to sing your heart out for England. Dib Dib, welcome to Thursday's programme. First tonight, very different responses to the murder of a pregnant vice girl in Bolton. From the police, a crackdown on prostitution. Officers investigating her death are considering tough new restrictions. Meanwhile, the MP for the area wants brothels to be legalised. In a moment, we'll be asking him why. But first, this report on today's progress from Michelle May.
Danielle Moorcroft was nearly 5 months pregnant. She was found partially clothed with severe head injuries by a fellow prostitute on the edge of Bolton's red light district. Today, detectives revealed Danielle was a drug addict who'd been working on the streets for at least 6 months. They urged curb crawlers who were in the area in the early hours of Saturday to help.
We need you to come forward, because what we wouldn't like to happen is to identify your presence at the scene through any other means and have to come knocking on your door either.
Danielle's murder has once again put Bolton's prostitution problems in the spotlight. Between 20 and 30 girls regularly work on the streets. Danielle is the second prostitute to be killed in just 6 months. 17-year-old Carly Bateman's body was discovered in an alleyway. A man's been charged with her murder. Detectives are not linking the deaths, but say that information gathered following Carly's murder is proving useful. Whilst we've been filming close to where Danielle was killed, a friend of hers came over to speak to us. A prostitute herself, she didn't want to go on camera. She described Danielle as a quiet, lovely girl who was quite different to the others. She said the prostitutes in the area were extremely scared following Danielle's death and that most would now only work during the day. Local people say that the problem of prostitution in Bolton is as bad now as it's ever been.
We just walk past and, just take it as a matter of course that we're going to see them. They're just part of the area, really. I have been approached once, asked. I won't repeat because it was quite remote, but we see them quite a lot because they're from here from about 9 o'clock to 9:30 in the morning.
Police plan a clampdown on curb crawling and are thinking of tougher measures.
We're considering antisocial behaviour orders to confine prostitution to the safe areas of Bolton. That's being considered. But if we're going to do that, we must do that in conjunction with preventative and diversionary activity for the prostitutes.
Anyone with information about Danielle's murder should contact Greater Manchester Police.
Michelle May reporting. Brian Idden, the MP for Bolton South East, where Danielle's murder happened, joins me now from his constituency office in London. Brian, what are you actually saying today? You've made it clear that you think that perhaps not only Danielle but Carly Bateman, who was killed in November, might not be dead if there was a legalised form of prostitution.
Well, we certainly have to consider getting the young women off the streets, Anthony. Obviously they would be safer inside, and there are various other reasons why I'm pushing for that. We've got a big problem with sexually transmitted diseases at the moment, and chlamydia and hepatitis C for injecting drug users. These are real problems. And so we could deal with the health of the young women involved in prostitution, and of course, as Alan Green has said today, divert them into other activities, particularly try and get them into jobs so that they can earn the money in the other way. But the underlying problem is drugs, and that's what we have to tackle.
But Brian, if you legalised, you know that the British public think it's wrong, it's immoral, whatever minority opinions there are, you would be legalising, in some ways glamorising, making real what the British public do think is immoral.
Well, that is right, of course, and I don't condone prostitution. I'm trying to explain that by getting them inside, we could divert them and reduce the numbers of prostitutes.
You think you'd reduce the number? Many people who oppose your point of view think it would increase the number. You're saying it would make it safer. If it makes it safer, does that not make it more attractive to young women?
Well, what makes it attractive to young women, Anthony, is being addicted to heroin. That's the real problem.
All right, Brian, I'm going to have to stop there. I'm afraid we have a slight sound problem on the line. Brian, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk more about this later. Thank you, sir. Next, Lancashire's own War of the Roses. Out goes the Tudor rose in Lancashire as a symbol of the county council, and in has come now a more modern version. Some say it gives a new image to the county, Others say it's a wilting bloom and a waste of cash. Stephen Roberts went to Preston to test public opinion on the new rose.
When is a logo not a logo? When it's the symbol of the greatest county in England, possibly. Well, this side of the Pennines at least. Any change to Lancashire County Council's Tudor rose is bound to be a prickly issue. Approved today at a meeting in County Hall and shown here for the first time on Granada Reports, the new stylised red rose is supposed to make the County Council look more user-friendly. So what do the experts think?
I think the rose is working. It's a lot freer, the style of it's a lot friendlier. The typography and the scale relation between the icon and the Lancashire County Council I think might need to work a little bit better.
The council claim the cost is being kept to a minimum by introducing the new symbol gradually. It does not replace the traditional red rose on the coat of arms, the red rose of Lancaster, England and St George. That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. That was Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. But is this a love story for the people of Lancashire? So this is the new one.
You're joking.
What do
you
think?
like it? Because it doesn't look like a rose.
Looks all right, yeah. Not too bad. I like the old one better though.
Definitely nicer, more modern. Yeah, I prefer it.
The new one. New one. Looks better.
Have you got to change those? I doubt it. Let's stick to old. If it's working, leave it alone.
Modern is the path the County Council have chosen.
The youngsters liked it, the oldsters didn't. Joining me now is David Whipp, Liberal Democrat leader on Lancashire County Council, and the leader of the council, Hazel Harding, who is a member of the Labour Party. This is a bit of a political discussion, isn't it? First of all, I'm going to ask you, David, you don't like it, but this reminds me a little bit of that Woody Allen joke about two old ladies, one says the food's terrible here, and the other one says yes, and there isn't enough of it. Are you saying that this is a bad logo, or that they've spent too much money on it? Which is your problem?
I think it's a wilting rose, so it's not a very good logo.
Why do you think it's wilting, sir?
Well, it's sort of leaning over and not looking very energetic, to be honest. And also, the thousands of pounds that they spent devising this could well be spent on services to far better effect.
You're shaking your head, Hazel.
Yes, I am.
Is it wilting?
I don't think so, and for David to say it doesn't have movement, the old one certainly didn't. We did hear from youngsters that they liked the new one, and that older people preferred the older image. What we got from the members of the public...
So you're a council for young people, are you, Hazel?
No, we're a council for the future.
For the future, OK. I mean, I think, Mr Whipp, logos are very important in the modern age, you know.
Well, this is the tip of the iceberg. The County Council is spending hundreds of thousands of pounds in promoting its self-image rather than providing services to people in Lancashire.
Oh, but don't you have to sell the services, David,
well,
surely?
We've got a care home in my patch that needs £3,000 spending on it to meet new standards. Twice that amount has been blown on devising this rose.
Only in staff fees? I mean, I would argue personally, Hazel, you should have spent real money on a design firm, but we'll get back to that later. Hazel, couldn't the money, though... There are things that we have to do in social services in Lancashire. Couldn't it have been spent differently?
Our social services has been actually designated one of the fastest improving in the country this week, and we are very pleased about that. We recognise there is a way to go. We also recognise that our services, when we asked them, when Murray asked them, people said our services were very good. Murray had not seen such high results on services. What they did say was the image of the County Council was dated, fuddy-duddy, old-fashioned. Now, if we didn't respond to that, I think we would be failing in our duty.
Fine. Would you want to fail in that duty to become more modern?
No, I think we've got to respect heritage and tradition as well, and we could have saved a bob or two into the bargain.
But the old one, so... I can't even show you this is the old one, if you get a close-up on the old one. It's so straightforward and kind of... It is dying, isn't it, that one? Look.
What's wrong with tradition, what's wrong with heritage, and what's wrong with keeping what we've got?
I'm not going to answer that. Hazel, you have 20 seconds to answer that question.
That's a tradition that dates back to 1972, and I think David, in many parts of his area, would prefer a white rose anyway.
My last question, now, that's under the belt. My last question, I take it you control the council?
We do indeed.
This is the new logo?
This is the new logo.
Mr Whipp, I'm terribly sorry. Thank you both very much for joining me. People of Lancashire, you have your new image. More news now, and a study is to be held into the health of people living near a factory on Merseyside. Residents in Kirby say they've suffered medical complaints since the Sonai woodchip factory opened in 1999. Maria Gearing has this report.
There have been complaints about its emissions for more than 2 years. Residents in the Northwood area of Kirby claim they've suffered runny noses, streaming eyes and breathing difficulties.
You only have to know from the cars and putting washing out in the street and things that everything gets absolutely covered in smoke and dust.
I've got to go to hospital with my eyes. I've been in hospital with skin rashes, which I didn't have before.
It's exploded 3 times.
I've lived here all my life and we've never been the same since that's gone up there.
Now health surveys are to be sent to 1,000 homes and the results will be analysed at Liverpool University this summer. An independent study carried out earlier this year found the levels of formaldehyde emitted from the site are within government limits, although they are still high enough to have an effect on health. But even though the residents may complain that it affects their quality of life, Sonai is operating within the law. The company says it's unable to comment while an investigation's underway following an explosion at the weekend in which a worker was seriously injured.
And that is a story we shall be following. A former glamour model from Merseyside has pleaded not guilty to stabbing her boyfriend to death. Stephanie Williams is charged with murdering 22-year-old John Peter Lamont in the Chapel Brook pub restaurant in Huyton back in February. She was remanded on bail today to await trial in October. The face of a man found murdered in Derbyshire is to be rebuilt in the hope of establishing his identity. It's now over a month since the body of the man, thought to be in his 30s, was discovered in a burnt-out car near Buxton. A forensic scientist from the US Army is being brought in to carry out the reconstruction. And 2 aircraft engineers have been injured in an accident at Liverpool John Lennon Airport. They were taken to hospital with hand and facial injuries. It's thought an oxygen cylinder exploded. No aircraft were involved. The Health and Safety Executive has launched an investigation. And the Commonwealth baton has arrived in Belfast for the final leg of its journey. It's to go on a whistle-stop tour of Britain before arriving in Manchester next month. The baton has been carried by thousands of runners across the world and is, of course, the symbol of the Games. And part of a huge tapestry to mark the millennium and the Golden Jubilee has gone on show in Liverpool. Each square of canvas has been created by primary school children from up and down the country. All 1,200 squares will be exhibited together for the first time ever during the Commonwealth Games in Manchester next month. And not so much willy won't he, it's just where oh where. Tight security surrounds a castle in Ireland amid rumours that Sir Paul McCartney and Heather Mills will be getting married there in the next few days. The 84-year-old owner of Castle Leslie in County Monaghan says he has been vaguely told it's on Tuesday, but that he has to keep it a dead secret. Still ahead on Granada Reports. England expect, and Beckham is out to settle an old score. And happy and glorious, preparing to sing their hearts out for the boys. Now, from the hand of God to the feet and balls of gold. It's that match coming up, and with the sport, it's Alistair.
Yes, indeed. What a match. This time tomorrow we could be jubilant or frankly depressed, as at lunchtime England face their crucial World Cup showdown with Argentina. Unsurprisingly, the pre-match talk has been all about David Beckham, who's determined to finally eradicate the memory of that infamous sending off against the South Americans 4 years ago in a fixture that has been littered with a history of controversy. Mick Channon reports.
You know, we're professionals. We wouldn't expect, our players to play certain tricks, but you never know. It's different mentalities.
England and Argentina's World Cup feuding began long before David Beckham's scrape with the South Americans. In 1966, Antonio Rattin and his pals stamped their cynical style on the tournament, Rattin going as far as to try refereeing the game. His marching orders justly deserved, although the next dismissal involving this pair of footballing nations will live as long, if not longer, in the memory.
Card out for Beckham. It's a red card for David Beckham.
I definitely won't be doing it again. Don't want to go through that again. If you're not used to that sort of thing, then, it will happen. And, it's happened to me in the past, and it's happened to me a few times. But it's something that we'll probably be talking about, obviously.
Well, I think we must stay calm, not to be too nervous. Don't think about the past, not even thinking about the second half against Sweden. Go out there and try to do whatever you can to have a result. But to do that, I think you have to play tactically very good.
Tactics, though, sometimes play no part. The last two World Cup encounters between the two sides saw Diego Maradona sink the game to an all-time low with the hand of God in '86. But that was before proving to be transparently the most talented footballer ever to lace a pair of boots.
And he's hurting England again here. It's a brilliant run. It's one of the World Cup great goals.
12 years later, and England showed that they too could produce a moment of pure magic, as a Northwest youngster proved that there's no substitute for the exuberance of youth. Sadly, they also showed that from 12 yards it's still a wee bit too much. Tomorrow, United's Nicky Butt looks likely to start as Emil Heskey moves forward to partner Michael Owen in attack. But what is clear is that England must rise to new heights if they're to level the World Cup honours with Argentina at 2 apiece.
Now, while millions will be glued to the England match, the cricket schedulers have decreed that Lancashire's B&H Cup semi-final should go ahead at the same time. The match against Warwickshire at Old Trafford is one of the county's biggest for years, and the club admit they've preferred it on any other day but tomorrow. Chris Hills reports.
Now, should it be football?
It's a great run by Michael Owen, and he might finish it off. Oh, it's a wonderful goal!
Or cricket? Well, it's a difficult decision, but it seems that members and even players at Lancashire Cricket Club are catching World Cup fever ahead of England-Argentina. Having been unable to switch their big game, the club are now preparing to give sports fans the best of both worlds.
We've got TVs all over the place, bars and outside bars and inside rooms, so that inevitably there's going to be an interest in the football. We can't ignore that. And, you know, looking around Manchester, there are so many functions on. I mean, the whole of the country's going to be focused on this football match. We can't ignore that. They're not going to be focused on Old Trafford, but we hope some of them will be for a time anyway.
The screens will allow spectators to keep an eye on events in Sapporo, as well as Lancashire's scorecard. Both games will no doubt be close affairs, but don't rule out a surprise double.
I don't know what odds you get on that. Lancashire certainly we hope for a win. It'll be a tough match. Warwickshire are tough opponents. We've not played them in a semi-final for a long time. England and Argentina is a bit more difficult. I just have a sneaking suspicion we might surprise them tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty good double to me. We'll have a full report on that Lancashire-Warwickshire game in tomorrow's Granada Reports. Now, throughout the World Cup, we've been monitoring all the Northwest-based players representing their respective countries. The player who caught the eye today is Liverpool-bound Salif Diao of Senegal, who, to say the least, has had a contrasting performance against Denmark. Here's Tim Hill with today's Rising Suns.
Liverpool look to be getting a player who can do everything in Senegal, Salif Diao. The 25-year-old took centre stage in this morning's game against Denmark, his first act giving away a penalty that was expertly converted by John Dahl Thomason. Then one of the goals of the tournament so far, as Diao started the move before running the full length of the pitch to put Senegal level, aided by fellow Liverpool target El Hadji Diouf. But a case of the bad, the good and the ugly, as Diao blotted his copybook with just 10 minutes remaining. Definite impact with studs up, earning Gerard Houlier's latest signing an early bath.
It could be an interesting signing. Well, Manchester United have made a signing of sorts. They've today named former Portugal and South Africa national coach Carlos Queiroz as Alex Ferguson's new assistant manager. Sir Alex has been without a number 2 since the departure of Steve McLaren to Middlesbrough last summer. Queiroz comes to Old Trafford, having most recently guided the South Africans to the World Cup finals. Meanwhile, Manchester City have at last completed the signing of Nicolas Anelka from Paris Saint-Germain in a $12 million deal, with Blues striker Alouane Touré going the other way. Argentinian forward Vicente Vuoso has also completed his main road move. There you are. Apologies to Manchester City fans. Main road move from Independiente. Well, back to the Commonwealth Games now, and with just 7 weeks to go, one of the world's most famous Paralympians, Tanni Grey-Thompson, has been at the City of Manchester Stadium as she prepares to add more goals to her glittering collection. Kerris Griffiths reports.
Tanni Grey-Thompson is without doubt the most successful disabled athlete of recent times, taking 4 gold medals in the Sydney Olympics 2 years ago. Yet despite that impressive haul, it hasn't dampened her enthusiasm for more medals on her first ever appearance in the Commonwealth Games.
We've had demonstration events at non-disabled games before,
but this will be the first time, and it's also different for me because I'll be competing for Wales, so I don't get to sort of walk out with the Welsh team very often. So I think that'll be quite emotional because it's slightly different from competing for a British team.
This summer will see the first ever integrated games, and the athlete who's been inspirational to many believes that Manchester 2002 will set a trend for years to come.
Manchester's going to have a huge impact on young people. You know, Sydney started it for young disabled people, but I think actually having a games on home soil will inspire a lot of young disabled people to want to come and take part in future games. So, you know, Manchester's going to, you know, set a really positive scene for years to come.
Despite sampling the atmosphere of Sydney, Barcelona and Atlanta in the past decade, Tanny has the feeling that competing before a supportive home crowd is going to be extra special.
It's going to be biased crowds. You know, you don't tend to get really biased crowds in athletics because you have such a mix of people from all over the world. But, you know, here we will have so many people, you know, from Great Britain coming to watch. It's just going to be the best thing I think I'll ever have been at.
I'm sure she'll be a real star. Manchester City moving from Main Road to the City of Manchester Stadium. I have to say Main Road Move or Main Road Move, whatever it was I was trying to say before.
Exactly, Alistair. By the way, Lucy, I know it's your day off, but I know you're probably watching. I accept the bet that you did with me. If we get a result tomorrow, I'll do a Hoxton Finn haircut. Alistair won't because Alistair's hair wouldn't take a Hoxton Finn. The weather, dry and mild tonight, turning misty during the early hours, minimum temperature 13 Celsius. I refuse to read Fahrenheit because Lucy isn't here. Tomorrow some patchy rain in the north, elsewhere isolated showers but mainly dry with sunny spells. Top temperature 19 degrees Celsius, and you can work out the Fahrenheit for yourself. Again, finally, you've heard the old tune a few thousand times. They used to play it in the cinema, didn't they? You probably sung along at the start of England games and maybe even at a Jubilee party. But how many of us really know the words to our national anthem? Emmy Murphy's been out to find out.
But before we start the playing and singing of the national anthems.
The national anthem, a mark of honour to Her Majesty the Queen. And in these days of Jubilee celebrations and World Cup excess, it's been on the lips of more Britons recently than it has been for years. But just how well do we know the words to the age-old tune?
Well, not too many of them seem to know the first verse, let alone the second.
So with British pride running high, how does the Northwest measure up when it comes to the words of a song that's been knocking round, oh, only for a few hundred years?
I don't know, honestly, I've not got a clue.
Long live our noble Queen, long gracious Queen, God save the Queen.
I do know it.
No, I don't.
God save our gracious Queen.
Not all the words I don't know.
I forgot now.
Na 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 na, glorious, glorious.
Long to reign over us, happy and glorious. Forever and ever after that, isn't it?
Something like
God
that,
save our Queen, I'm hoping anyway.
Long live our noble Queen. Sending victorious, happy. Am I getting it right? You don't know yourself, do you?
So after those performances, I'm not even going to try and test my knowledge. I've brought the experts in to tell you what the real words are. Take it away, boys.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen, send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the Queen.
Fantastic, boys, absolutely fantastic. Greek national anthem, by the way, 152 verses. We're back tomorrow at 6 after the match. See you.
We're out here to win games and make people proud of us at home.
England stuttered against Sweden, so can they regain their pride against old rivals Argentina?
England's World Cup is up and running!
Watch the match in full tomorrow night from 1.
I feel like a prisoner in my own home. Look, they're still out there.
The Pollen Count, sponsored by Benadryl, one a day.
Well, pollen levels in the Granada region have been noticeably higher in the last couple of days or so, but the good news is that tomorrow we're seeing a lot more in the way of cloud around, and although temperatures are still fairly warm and there will be some sunshine at times, some very heavy downpours are going to make sure pollen levels will stay fairly low.
Another fantastic offer from Boots. Choose 3 products from within one of our professional hair care ranges and get the cheapest one free. Now available at most Boots stores.
Do you promise to cherish him, support him, and keep him in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be true to him as long as you both shall live?
I do. Subject to the following terms and conditions: no snoring, no love handles, no forgetting anniversary, regular holidays in the sun, option of early retirement, not spending Christmas with groom's mother.
Because people everywhere have small print too, your local HSBC is offering a face-to-face discussion to help you plan for the future. The Individual Review from HSBC, the world's local bank.
Ooh, look! It's jumpers for goalposts! With all your sing-along terrors favourites. Special exclusives from Honourable Man Terry Venables, Helen Sperling and Dario G. In 1966, some people think that it's all over, but now it's start all over again with jumpers for goalposts. Wise man say, why jumpers for goalposts? Come on, England!
Hi, I'm George Foreman, and this is my lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine.
The new George Foreman indoor-outdoor grill is just what you need this summer. Simply plug it in, and its floating hinge and extra-large cooking surface allows you to cook enough for a real party. And its fat-reducing channels, temperature control and timer ensure perfect results every time. But the unique thing about this grill is, if the weather turns, you can simply continue the party indoors.
I'm so proud of it, I put my name on it.
$1 million foreheads and priceless little toes. Fairy mums know the value of the softest non-bio.
Quilted velvet, what else?
Even softer quilted velvet.
A little moment of luxury, even in one's smallest room.
Even softer quilted velvet.
Granada weather sponsored by United Utilities. Your new name for North West Water.
Hello and good evening. Well, a little bit cloudy and overcast at times today, but the majority of the cloud and the rain, in fact, was confined to the southwest of the country here. We did have a few showers at times, but I think generally most of these will tend to die away this evening and overnight. And tomorrow, low pressure is still the dominant feature, but no heavy rain around. I think just showers for tomorrow, but particularly in the morning. In the afternoon, things should improve. Overnight, remaining dry. A little bit of mist developing as that cloud develops before dawn, and another very mild one. No lower than 13 degrees Celsius, 55 degrees Fahrenheit tonight. Those winds still very light. And from the east, looking at the sun times, it rises 4:44, setting at 9:37. So a little bit of a misty, murky start. Once the mist clears, I think we will see some showers around first thing. Into the afternoon, though, a bit of brightness creeping into parts of Cheshire, perhaps North Wales, but showers continuing for much of the day. Into towards the evening, though, things could dry up with a bit of late sunshine, perhaps. And in any brightness tomorrow, temperatures will get up to around 19 degrees Celsius, 66 degrees Fahrenheit, and still light easterly winds. Now Saturday, a cloudy day with some rain moving in by the evening, but temperatures fairly warm. Have a lovely evening. Here's a summary.
Granada weather sponsored by United Utilities.
GMTV, 5 million viewers every morning. Britain's first choice from 6 a.m.
While the interest rates stay low, Britain's house prices stay high, but realistically, for how long? Tonight with Trevor McDonald reports on property prices going through the roof from 7:30.